And welcome to Let Them Talk. I'm Paul Dorienzo. Is that your camera? Yes, that's my camera. And welcome to this great show. We're returning a returning visitor is Chris Flash, editor of The Shadow, and you can see the latest edition of The Shadow behind us.
Wonderful illustration by Danny Hellman, wonderful artist.
Okay, well, Danny Hellman. Oh, right.
New York Press, Screw Magazine, a million different publications.
Oh, great. We'll talk about him
great
too,
artist.
and we'll do that. So it is an interesting cover, right? So this is available now, issue number 62.
30 years, Paul.
30 years, so
crazy.
Boy, amazing.
You've been with us from the beginning. It's
wrote
amazing.
The first one. I think I wrote the cover story in the first one, Angels of Dirty
The Guardian
Faces.
Angels, yeah.
Angels of
Dirty Faces.
Angels of Dirty
That's true.
Faces. That was my idea.
You were calling them out way before anybody dared call out the Guardian Angels.
Yeah, now I'm sort of buddies with him. But he's not in very good health, though.
Mentally he's not in good health. That's another story.
I think he's backed down from a lot of that. Now they do things like help you find your puppy lost.
Giuliani gave him a free building in Hell's Kitchen because he said so many wonderful things about Giuliani on his radio show.
I guess he's not anymore. Nobody's saying good things about Giuliani
Still got
anymore.
that building, though. It's like 9th or 10th Avenue.
Do we predict that Giuliani would become like a 300-pound traitor to America, working behind the scenes with the Russian government to...
I just find it
to
interesting.
make millions to pay off all his. That's why he was doing. You know why he was making this deal in Ukraine was because he invested. He had all his investments there, and he's trying to pay off his new wife, who's divorcing him. His divorces have repeatedly driven Giuliani into near bankruptcy.
You know, I have an interesting Giuliani story. We're deviating from the program somewhat, but one day I was doing a mass mailing of The Shadow at the post office on 9th Avenue by like 30th Street, I think, or 29th Street, that new facility. And this cop came up to me, and he said, "Oh, what's that?" And we had a little conversation. He looked at his, totally anarchist newspaper and everything. But even so, he was digging the paper, right?
Yeah.
He told me he was part of a security detail for Giuliani, and he and the other cops watched helplessly as Giuliani beat his wife, Donna Hanover, so badly she had to go to the hospital. So she divorced him not just because he was screwing his secretary in City Hall, but because he beat her up. He was a wife beater.
Eric Williams told me about the story when he was down in room 9, with the press room in the basement of City Hall. He worked there because he was working for WLIB, I think, at the time, right? Radio. Eric Williams is a friend of ours. He's been on the show.
Great journalist, passed away. Yeah.
He said you could hear the screaming. He said that she walked in on him having sex with the woman.
They were there when she caught them?
That's the story I've heard.
Well,
caught them red-handed in
the
his
bigger
office.
reason is he would beat her up. He's a pig. He's a piece of... I
His
can't say
wife
curses
hates
on
him,
this.
his son hates him.
With good
wife
reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he got remarried.
What I find
And
interesting,
now
though...
he's getting, I don't know, I think remarried once or twice more, and he's getting divorced now.
Have you ever seen the YouTube video where, Giuliani's in drag and Trump is grabbing his breasts and groping him and trying to like nuzzle his neck, and Giuliani is pretending to be outraged.
No.
And now
the transsexual community doesn't like that.
But now you go through the time machine and now you got Giuliani and Trump back together again.
with Pence. Right?
They're
going to
It's bizarro world.
Fascistically enforce
It's bizarro world.
morality on America. The most
Bizarro world.
The two of them.
And it's like this.
Right. Grab
Crazy.
him by the meow meow. All right.
That's a good one.
And Giuliani, the wife beater. Okay, well, that's...
Among other things.
So, but why do you have... Okay, I can understand Trump. I mean, Trump is like a jump. I mean, a lot of people still are holding on to Trump, but believe me, they're just going to go down with the ship when he goes down. What about Obama? Obama's supposed to be, he was a cultured man, an educated person.
We were scratching our heads for what to put on the front cover of The Shadow. As with every issue we produce, we always kind of keep the front cover for last.
Yeah.
And then we have a group meeting to decide. And Danny Hellman came up with this really great suggestion. And, if you think about it, if you're an anarchist publication, why would you endorse one president over another president when they're both puppets run and controlled by the same 1% rulers of the
That's all right. We're not on radio.
Okay. Of the planet. And so for anyone to think that Obama and Trump didn't take orders from the very same people is to be extremely naive. Trump and Obama are following the same plan. Nothing has changed. Under Obama, you had immigration violations. You had restriction on immigration. You had deportations. You had immigrants rounded up. Okay, you didn't have a wall built or a public declaration of a desire to build a wall to stop immigration, to stop illegal immigrants like Trump. But it's like good cop, bad cop. So you got the smooth talking black dude who's like, like sharp and he's hip and he's kind of smooth and you can take it. It's like a dose of arsenic with honey mixed in, so you can. It's more palatable. And then you got Trump who craves attention. Even bad attention for people like Trump is good attention. And he's pathological, so he's enjoying all the negative attention. He doesn't give a damn because he's going to get his golden parachute. He's going to get his second term. He's going to get his golden parachute. He will not be impeached. He will not be jailed. He's following orders. He will get rewarded for following orders, just like Obama got his golden parachute. So if you're an anarchist publication, would you really endorse or favor one over the other? Like, I see people online who are like pining for the wonderful days. I wish Obama was president again. It wouldn't be like this. Like they're so deluded. If you get
one, be fighting the Russians more. Now we're fighting the Ukrainians.
It's a game. It's a game of distractions while we're focusing on the Trump puppet. We're supposed to all of us jump on the Trump hate bandwagon. Hate Trump, 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 Trump. We know he's a piece of shit. We know his history in New York City. We know what a bad seed this guy is. And if you don't join the Trump bandwagon, the hate Trump bandwagon, then you're a Trump supporter. Well, we know what Trump is. Trump is designed to be a distraction. We're going to spend the next X number of weeks watching the impeachment proceedings. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to come from it. We're so close to the election, it doesn't even matter anymore. At best, Trump will lose the next election and they'll put another president in, another puppet in. At worst, we'll get another season of Trump. But so the short answer to your question is, we don't see any major difference in terms of policy, in terms of agenda between these two puppets and any of their preceding puppets. They're all part of the same club. We're not in it, like George Carlin so wonderfully said.
But who's the guy in the back with the devil guy?
Well, Danny came up with that one. I mean, judging by the horns and judging by the dollar sign, I would say he represents the interests of capital. Maybe he's the personification of the devil incarnate, and maybe a personification of the 1%.
Right. It's very ominous. It's like the movie The Omen. I mean, you have the atom bomb going on.
What's he holding in his hands?
The atom bomb going on over there.
What's he holding in his hands? You got spy satellites, you got drones, you got atomic explosions. But what's he holding in his hands? He's got the Trump mask and he's got the Obama mask. Doesn't matter which puppet is presenting himself to us. It's the same people.
What type of government do you want?
I want communal cooperation. I think people should work in communal efforts on a local basis, and when you have many communal efforts, collectively you have a really wonderful result. I think everyone in their community should work together. They should look out for each other. They should take care of their energy needs. If you've got solar panels, provide extra power to your neighbor who doesn't have it. Don't sell it into the grid so that the utilities can make a shitload of money on people at their expense. Do things that help your neighbors. We can all help each other. We can all take care of each other in our communities. We can do barter for goods and services instead of cash. There's a million alternatives. You can get off the grid. You could grow food in your gardens instead of grass using Monsanto-laced petrochemicals that destroy the groundwater. And you can share your surplus produce with your neighbors who might not have any food. There's a million things we can do for each other.
Newspaper and find out about all these interesting anarchistic views.
Well,
where do you go for this?
Just to clarify, it's not so much a ranting, raving, anarchistic publication. It's more like, as you know, it's investigative news. It's hard news, investigative reportage. From an anarchist point of view, but everything is sourced, everything is well investigated and thoroughly sourced.
Right. So here's the shadow. I get to have written the cover. That's why it's not the only reason I'd have you on, even when I didn't have a cover story, but I'm happy to have it. And my story is playing the FM band, the Pacifica Foundation's War on WBAI.
This is a great story for more than one reason.
Coming up, right? We came out with this story really fast.
Up to the minute. The most recent developments, Paul was right there in the court.
Right.
In the BAI station, because I don't know if your readers, your audience knows that you also are a member of BAI. You've been so from
do the news
the past
Tuesday
30 years.
Saturday at 6 p.m.
So to have a person at BAI write the story about
the news
BAI.
Before I came here.
But should we tell the viewers what this is about in a nutshell, real quick?
In a nutshell. You want to tell them? You tell them better, or I'll tell them.
You can tell them better. It's your story.
This is about. So what happened was the Pacifica National Board, some members of it, they call them the Rogue Faction, decided that they were going to take matters into their own hands, and they came with a bunch of goons under this guy John Verneal, and they seized the station and took it off the air, claiming that they own it and they can do anything they want. They control the licenses. However, WBAI has very strict bylaws, and in the bylaws that allows the board of directors to overrule the executive board, and they overruled the executive board, but then they wouldn't listen to the executive board. They ignored them during the meetings. They were telephone meetings. They would turn off the phones and say, they said that if you were a board member who came from BAI, you couldn't vote because therefore you had a you were biased to it or you had a conflict of interest, which is so crazy. That's saying you can't, even though you're a registered voter, you can't vote for president.
Because you might vote for the other guy.
Because you're an American and therefore you have a conflict of interest.
You have a personal...
You have a personal side, right. Only foreigners, only non-Americans can vote in American elections because therefore they don't have a bias.
Well, what I like about your story, what I like about your story more than anything is that
that's
Paul,
what they said. I'm not even joking. That was the logic, and of course the judge, a federal judge, and then a state judge threw that out. Judge Crane, Melissa Crane, threw it out and said, "What a ridiculous way to disenfranchise somebody with this ridiculous argument." So then the board was allowed to vote. This ridiculous idea was removed, and they immediately voted to fire John Verneuil.
Nice.
And he was fired.
Are things back to where they were before?
Well, it's still, because the reality pending? Is, and you were talking about it, we're talking about elections, Chris, right? The fact of the matter is, no matter how people vote in elections, there's people who are in the background. I don't know, I guess Trump, what does Trump call them? The secret state or something like that? Whatever. There really is there are people who have authority who are not political appointees, who are not
they're not accountable
officials. They're not accountable to anybody in whether it's the United States or Pacifica. There's people like that. No matter how many times we write bylaws and have the Constitution and elections, or we have elections here, no matter what people do, it didn't bring out the reality that there's some people who, through money or other ways, have power that is unaccountable in any situation. So just to say that BAI, just to say Trump is removed from office, let's say he is, or just to say that BAI has defeated this attempt to shut it down, doesn't mean that there aren't very powerful people who are unaccountable, who are in the system, who have these views.
Right. My theory is
that's reality.
I have the light bulb theory. Like you can like if you look at the president as a light bulb. Yeah. You can change the light bulb every 4 years, or maybe every 8 years. And some light bulbs are lighter and brighter than others, and some are dimmer than others. Yeah. Some flicker, some give a big bright glow. But at the end of the day, the light socket, the conduit, the wires, and the power are constantly, forever in place. You're not really, so you make a good point. You can apply that to a lot of, you can make an analogy with a lot of things.
I'll leave the rest. It's a very long article. It's long for the
really thoroughly researched, and
4,000 pages.
First person reported,
I know the history
firsthand.
All right, so that's that. So read that, and if you want all the details,
we should make the most of our time here.
yeah, no, that's cool. Where can people get this paper? Let's tell people where they can get it.
Well, I'll put the address up here, but if you send us $2, we'll send you a recent issue of The Shadow. We'll pay the $1.50 postage, so we'll lose the money on that. If you send us $3, all the better. But we're available in different bookstores all around the country. Since there's a New York broadcast, although you are online, some other places. If you go to shadowpress.net, that is our website, shadowpress.net. It's in the process of being rebuilt after a lunatic web server kind of knocked it off the air. Well, I'm not going to get into that.
Like
but I know, right? Well, it's a little intrigue. But within a week, you'll see the list of every bookstore across the country that has a Shadow. But locally, you can get the Shadow on the Lower East Side primarily, in the West Village, unoppressive and anti-imperialist books at 34 Carmine Street, East Village Books on St. Mark's Place, 99, I believe St. Mark's, I think it is. The Source, Xerox Shop on East 9th Street, Ink on Avenue A. Gosh, so many stores. Go to shadowpress.net and you'll get the list of stores in New York City as well as around the country that carry it. It's only $2, which is pretty good. We had the price frozen for about 25 years. We've been doing this for 30 years. We just raised the price, but it enables us to make a better product. So,
great.
What other stories do we have here, Paul?
Yeah, let's go back. So that's where to get the Shadow. We'll remind you later where to get it. And you have which is sad to say, but I'm glad you're doing it. Is you have obituaries of prominent people in the progressive community and the anarchist community have passed away this year, and you have several.
That's the saddest thing about each issue. Right. We end up and we're losing so many good people.
And so you have Carl Hultberg and Paul Krasner.
We were really blessed to have Paul Crescent. What's really funny is Paul Krasner, who just passed away, he was, for those who don't know, he was like The Shadow. He published a great magazine called The Realist. And from 1958 to about 2000, I think 10, I think it was.
And he was the first real, he used the media, the first media critic, I think.
Well,
true media critic.
He and Abby Hoffman, Jerry Rubin, and others created the Yippies, which mastered the fine art of using the media, using the magic wand of the media to their own ends.
Freaking the media?
Well, they would do hoaxes, they would do media events, they would do really outrageous shit. And the media's always looking for a good story. Well, the Democratic Convention 1968 was a good... They ran
a pig for president, Pegasus.
Pegasus, right?
They ran nobody for president.
But they were very good
Nobody will raise your taxes, nobody will...
If nobody wins, nobody loses.
Yeah, right.
I like that line, that's a good one.
Yeah, right.
But that's not his only accomplishment. He did a wonderful thing. So he starts The Realist. It's kind of a satirical newspaper, publishing things that can't be published elsewhere, everything from news stories to cartoons. One of the cartoons here is a really infamous piece of art. You can get it here in the shadow. You can also get it on paulcrescent.net,
This was actually banned, wasn't it? It was Disney didn't like it.
Well, what happened was, there's a story behind it. I wrote the art of the obituary because I really heavily researched it. I woke up with this vision one morning.
Yeah.
And in the vision, we're still in shadow production, and I was thinking in the vision, I should ask Paul for something for the shadow. And in my vision, he's telling me, he actually came to me in a vision. He said, well, I have the story for you. I woke up and I lost what he told me. And then I'm at the shadow headquarters, I'm working on the shadow, and then I go online and I find out he died that very morning. I was like, really eerie. So I made a point of really heavily researching Paul, mostly through his own words in his own book. What is the name of his book? It's a long one now. Confessions of an Unconfined Nut.
Right.
It's a really great autobiography.
The Three Little Pigs having an orgy.
Well, in the book he explains that he got tight with Mad Magazine's crew. One of the cartoons that would never be run elsewhere was a cartoon done by Mad Magazine artist Wally Wood, which it's called the Walt Disney Memorial Orgy, which basically shows all these Walt Disney characters.
This is banned though, wasn't it, at the time?
Yeah, but Disney wisely chose not to sue. I'm guessing that if they had sued,
they might have lost.
Well, one, that, but also I think they were afraid that the art would be further reproduced, further got out there by quietly saying nothing and letting it just die on its own.
Here's Dumbo the elephant pooping on people. He's flying over and dropping elephant.
You've got elves kind of doing each other. They're kind of playing around with Snow White, and you got Prince Charming looking at.
You got to see it.
It's a little, it's not overly explicit. You got Pluto pissing on a shot of Mickey Mouse.
I think it's hysterical.
Yeah.
How about Carl Hultberg? He's another person who passed
He was a great
away.
friend of ours. He was part of the Village Green recycling team. He was really heavily.
A real pioneer of recycling.
Really, and very committed, social, political activist, really wonderful guy. His grandfather was a guy named Rudy Blesch. And Rudy Blesch had a club in the West 40s and used to broadcast on the radio from his club all these jazz and blues and bebop groups.
Really?
And he had his own record company called Circle Records, and he recorded all these people.
Carl.
And Carl had this wonderful archive from his grandfather.
Picture. Who took that picture? That's a...
Of Paul Krasner?
No, the picture of Carl with... I've seen that picture.
I got that through Bill Weinberg. I'm not sure.
Yeah, right. I've seen that around.
But,
right.
Thank you, Bill, if you're watching the show.
Ecological visionary. And speaking of, ecological visionary, is the next picture is Stopping Future Storm Surges. It's my story about the East River
It's
Coastal
another big
Resilience.
story you did for the Shadow, Paul, and that's another good one.
And then there was the open letter to Council Member Carlina Rivera by Pat Arno.
And she's a really devoted. Pat Arno is a really devoted political
Amy
activist.
Nishama talking about green thumb gardeners under Parks Department thumb. The next thing that the Parks Department is doing to the gardeners. So you have a whole thing on the ecology. Right?
I say the two themes of this issue are gentrification as well as protecting the physical climate of the Lower East Side for everything from community gardens to East River Park, where there's a scandal brewing where they're going to give a multi-gazillion dollar contract to build this ridiculous, to bury the park in 10 feet of earth?
Yeah,
destroy this multi-million-dollar renovation they just finished doing after 10 years, I think it was.
Yeah. Who knows? They're saying 3.5, but there's a whole book. There's a report this thick about construction projects in New York taking like triple and quadruple.
I've been in New York all my life. I've seen it myself. Things that should take a year. You and I could do it with a couple of friends of ours in a week. Months.
And they'll have those green construction barriers like they had on First Avenue, like blocking our view of the ocean.
But the important point that Paul makes in his article here about the East River Park plan, which is allegedly designed to stop storm surges or address it, is that they will never stop the ultimate surges that are going to come. So all this money will have been spent needlessly.
There's nothing interim either.
The park goers will have been disrupted needlessly. there's no place for the water to go. And really, that's all swampland to begin with.
One thing that's interesting about all these articles, and you allowed me to go so long with them, is that in this era of the internet where everything is being reduced to like tiny little stories, little boxes and things like that, like this little, like a story like this, which is just like an add-on box, or like this, is the average story. But you, in this paper, have like 2,000, 3,000, 1,000 word stories, incredibly long by modern standards.
I think people get more, they process information in a better way. They retain information better when they see it in print form, when they feel it, hold it, touch it. They retain it. They can put it on their bookshelf. They can refer back to it. You know, a website can crash, except for being burned. A newspaper can't crash.
Right.
And you get more out of a newspaper. I think it's more special. Plus, the energy of dozens of people are in this item here. All these people put their energy into this, and it resonates, and it flows, and you feel it, and it's vital, I think, to continue printing newspapers.
I want to jump around because I thought this was an interesting story here about microdosing.
That's the thing. That's a really great story. I'm glad you mentioned that one.
You know, I think that's an important story. And
well, here we've got a really wonderful woman. She chose to remain anonymous because she's in I won't be specific, but she's in a realm of people that would look down on her for revealing what she's personally revealed here. She reveals that she, on her own, discovered that by microdosing small amounts of psilocybin, in her case 0.7 grams, she could function. She no longer needs psych meds, which were destroying her life, giving her suicidal desires and making her chronically depressed, unable to get out of bed, unable to function. And with psilocybin, she's been able to get her life back and become like a fulfilled person. And she's energetic and she's upbeat. And no more psych meds, because the sinister aspect of psych meds is that if you withdraw yourself from psych meds, you get this other set of side effects.
Right.
It's really demonic that you stop taking it and then you get worse.
That's a new thing. I did a story. They've legalized psychedelics in Oakland, California, and in Denver, Colorado.
The genie is getting out of the bottle. She's almost totally
them.
out, and once she's fully out, they can't shove her back in.
I think in Colorado they legalized everything in the city, including acid and MDMA and all that stuff. And in Oakland, they just did psilocybin.
I think sooner or later, the genie's going to be totally out of the bottle. They will not be able to stop it. The momentum is on our side.
Right.
These are organic psychedelics, with the exception, of course, of LSD, which is not an organic psychedelic, but it's not a bad psychedelic. I think what the government's really afraid of is, one, you realize under the influence of positive psychedelics that you don't need rulers, governments, war, hatred, division, killing, hurting. You find you have this communal connection with everybody and every animal, every living creature and thing on the planet, and you don't want to destroy the planet. Governments tend to that tends to
here's an influencer.
Governments don't like that, let's put it that way. And then pharmaceutical companies don't want alternatives to their psychotic drugs, which make them untold profits. I'm sorry.
Chris Flash, no, go ahead. Chris
That's
Flash
basically
from The Shadow, editor of The Shadow, here with us on Let Them Talk, talking about The Shadow. And here is another person, Art Kunkin, right?
Art Kunkin was
he was sort of an influencer, right, for The Shadow?
Yes, well, all of our influences, some of them are still alive. Ed Sanders from the Fugs, who published, Jeff Nightbird, who's still alive, from The Rat. No, and those two guys who are still alive.
And his book's The Family, his great book about the Manson killing.
But in addition to the two that are still alive, other influences who have passed away, unfortunately, would be Paul Krasner, whom we just discussed, as well as Art Kunkin, who put out the Los Angeles Free Press, the LA Free Press. And Kunkin was a colleague of Paul Krasner and Ed Sanders. And they were all part of the underground press syndicate, and they all shared stories. Right. Their objective, like our objective is today, then
before the internet,
is to get the news out there.
Yeah.
And don't rely on Big Brother. Because the government, the spooks control the internet. They invented it, they control it, they monitor it, they can shut you down. They can't shut this down, except in the old days, in the 60s, they would come to your office with a bunch of goons and beat the crap out of everybody.
And smash the printers if you had them.
But here, it's like the old expression, the freedom of the press belongs to those who own one.
Well, so if worse comes to worse, you could always do this on a... crank it out on a mimeograph.
Well, when the big crash comes and the electromagnetic wave wipes out all the internets and all the websites,
you'll have hand crank.
It's going to be gramophones for record players. There's going to be mimeograph machines to whip out newspapers. Yeah, we're going to come back to that.
What is spatial deconcentration?
Spatial deconcentration was a secret plan uncovered by a woman named Yolanda Ward. She and a fellow activist, I forget exactly what it is. Did she sue? Or did they demonstrate outside of the headquarters of a government agency, either HUD or...
FEMA.
Not FEMA. It was in the in the 80s, early 80s, they discovered this.
HUD and FEMA.
Well, she ultimately, through their demonstrating efforts, were able to acquire secret documents which revealed that the government has a plan called planned shrinkage, spatial deconcentration, and other newspeak methods by which to destabilize cities so they don't become centers of political organizing. Long-term ethnic neighborhoods got to be wiped out so that in favor of money transients who have no roots in the community, who don't demand too much from the government or from the elected officials, and are just like passing through like you have on the Lower East Side. Well, Seth Tabachman, and he gave an additional credit to someone named Chuck Sperry, but Seth Tabachman, a good friend of ours who, one of the founders of World War III Illustrated, did this back in 1986. This has been copied and reproduced all over the world over the past 33 years.
Yes.
He updated the last 2 panels for us. We felt it was appropriate, even though it's 30 years old, because the shadow itself is 30 years old with this issue.
Right.
And it also kind of enhances or illustrates the gentrification theme we have in this issue of the article of the shadow, right. Which includes the Hudson Yards project.
What are the
the
sick 5G?
The sick towers down by the bridges downtown.
The threat of 5G. You have the legal page. You have the lawyer's page that's written this year by.
We have activist attorney Stanley Coleman with a really great piece, and we try to get a real movement lawyer to write something in every issue of the shadow.
On Venezuela, you have 2 articles on Venezuela.
Greg Palast and Ellen Brown are 2 truly investigative reporters, and they wrote 2 interesting perspectives on what's really going on in Venezuela.
Why is twice convicted felon Sheldon Silver still free?
That's another story. How much time do we have for that one?
Only about a minute.
So this prick was found guilty twice. He got a trial, found guilty. He got an appeal, was retried, found guilty again. The evidence doesn't fucking change. Excuse me. And so here he is collecting a $6,600 a month pension. Okay, and he's still walking around free in the Lower East Side. He basically got a get out of jail free card, nicely, beautifully illustrated by Danny Hellman again. And basically, he contributed to the worst gentrification on the Lower East Side while pretending to be a representative of the Lower East Side.
Right.
It was
There's less than a minute to go.
Oh boy. Okay.
And we have another article here on gentrification.
So much more to tell you. This is like read the shadow. You'll get the
read it.
You'll get the dope.
People get it.
You'll find out all the evil shit that this guy did.
Tell people to get it in the next 45 minutes.
Oh boy. Okay, so you can send us whatever donation you like. We'll send you a shadow. If you can send us $2, we'll send it to you. We'll eat the postage cost. If you can send $3, it covers the cost of postage.
And where can they go out right now and get it?
Right now, if you're on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, you can go to East Village Books on 99 St. Mark's Place between Avenue A and First Avenue. You can also go to Ink on Avenue A between 4th and 5th Streets. You can go to, oh God, I almost said St. Mark's Books. You can go to Gem Spa, the wonderful newsstand at the corner of St. Mark's and 2nd Avenue, which is being threatened with displacement because the city just gave it to them really badly, but they're recovering from that.
Okay, last 5 seconds. Chris Flash.
Shadowpress.net, you'll get the list of all the stores all over the U.S. that carry the Shadow.
Next week.
And right on. Take care.